Hello there. My name is Crafty Kathy, and I'm so happy and thankful that you stopped in to craft with me today. I am the owner and creator of Kids Vintage Farmhouse here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I wanted to share with you some of the things that I've been working on for my store this week. Now that Christmas has passed, we're looking at a new year, and I'm very excited about where this channel is going to be going in the coming year, and I would love for you to go there with me. Hit that little red subscribe button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and if you would, hit the like button, that's the big thumbs up button, because it really helps me out on YouTube. Now the first thing that I've been working on was a wintry feather wreath. I have a 14-inch wreath form that came from the Dollar Tree and two 6-foot feather boas that came from Hobby Lobby. They're originally $3.99, but you can get them at half off and they're just $2 a piece. Now this one has this neat little like cotton cord on the end of it, and it's so you can hang it, I guess. And what I did was just put a little bit of glue on one side, fold it over that wreath, and just glued it to itself. That way I wouldn't have to mess up any of my beautiful feathers by sticking glue on them. Then I just simply wound this feather boa around and it covered up half the wreath. You know, when we have all the beautiful Christmas decorations up, your house is beautiful, then you take it all down, and my door always feels naked when Christmas is over with. So I just wanted a simple and beautiful, winter looking wreath that's going to be really nice until we get into the spring season. So on the second feather boa, I did the exact same thing. I glued that little cotton piece to itself and just wound it around and glued that piece on at the end. And this thing just fit perfectly. It's like these two feather boas was meant to make this beautiful winter wreath. I didn't want to just put up the feather boa wreath by itself. I wanted to put something in it. And my first thought was to use my little wintry bird I've got here. I absolutely love him. And his feet have this weird wire on them. And so I thought that I could just wind his feet kind of around, the wreath form, and it would fit perfectly. But he, in the end, was just too heavy, and I was afraid that he would fall, and I definitely didn't want him to break. I found two of them at a thrift store, and I redid the feathers on them, but they originally come from Kirkland's, and I think they're about $20 a piece in the store. And I love these little birds, and I didn't want him to fall and get broken. So what I did was just use an owl that I got in my Christmas decorations. He was in the Christmas section at Walmart. I think he was only like $1.28 or maybe $1.98. And what I did was just find the end of where the wreath, the actual wreath is, and I put a little bit of glue there, and also on that little area that I glued together, like the little cotton rope area. And I just glued him to that, and he is so light, he just set in there perfectly like he was made for this little feather boa. This wreath was so easy and simple to put together. It took me less than 5 minutes to put this thing together. I had a couple of pine cones that came off of some of my other wreaths, and they already have this fake snow on them, so they were perfect. And they had wire on them, so I just kind of wound them around the back end where the wreath form was. And that's all I did on this one. I hope you like it. And now my house doesn't look naked.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll talk a cup.
The next one is going to be a bucket wall decor. I got this beautiful piece when we were in Florida this summer, and I was thinking about turning it into a shelf, like putting a piece of wood in the middle of it, and when you hang it on the wall, you've got the most unique and beautiful shelf. But I just, in the end, decided on something different. I just think this thing is so beautiful the way it is, but I just wanted to shake it up just a little bit. After I cleaned it up, I put just a little bit of the white color called cotton. It's a Dixie Belle color. I just put a little bit of it on the end of my brush, and we're just going to dry brush just a little bit of white across this. I've got a transfer from the Spring IOD collection, and it's from the book called Ephemeral Melange. It had all these different flowers and stuff in it. So if you don't know how to do a transfer, all you do is you just lay it down on whatever object you want it to go on, and then they send you a little tool, which is just like a little plastic stick basically, and you rub it while you're pulling up that plastic sleeve that it's attached to. I find it easier to use that little tool right beside where I'm picking the page up. It just seems to want to stick a little bit better that way. And once you get your transfer on your project, you're going to burnish it. And all that means is to take that little plastic sheet that it came off of and you rub it around on the top of it, and it takes off any kind of shine. And when you are finished with this, it actually looks like it was made onto whatever project you're working on. Look how beautiful this turns out. I'm really glad that I did that little bit of white behind it because it really made it pop. And I'm also going to use a little bird. Now this bird came from my Christmas Valley book, and it's IOD also. And it was their Christmas from this year, and it's just a little bird. I didn't want to put the whole thing on there because I didn't want him to cover up my flowers. I just wanted him on the side. And so I kind of pressed down around in the center of him to know where to cut at. And I just cut it off and just placed him down on there. And that's all I did to this one. And it's all it needed. It's simple and gorgeous.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear.
The last thing that we're going to work on is some old thrifted bottles. From time to time at the thrift store, I find just different bottles of neat shapes or something that just attracts me to these bottles. I like this one because it had a flat front that I could decoupage on. I'd already painted it blue, but I'm just going to redo it and then a few of the others in the background there. I just took my vintage linen, which is an off-white color by DIY Paint, and I'm going to give this first bottle 2 full coats. Next, I'm just ripping off different pieces of rice paper. I got this rice paper from my friend Lori at Milton's Daughter. You know she sells all types of craft supplies, but you may not know that she sold rice paper too. So I'm going to leave her information in the description box below. It's www.miltonsdaughter.com. And on most items, if you put in Crafty Kathy 10, you get 10% off. I'm not really sure how the rice paper goes because it's so cheap anyway. There may not be a discount on that. But each sheet of rice paper is usually just a couple of dollars. And I do prefer using rice paper over napkins because there's no wrinkles. And if there is a wrinkle, it's supposed to be there most of the time. I'm going to add a little bit of cornstarch to my molds. These are IOD molds. This is the trimmings mold and the frames 2 mold. I got both of these from Lori also. I use DAS clay just because it's my favorite. It's on Amazon. It's easy to get. And you just kind of warm it up in your hands a little bit, and then you just push with your hands down into that mold. And all of the IOD molds have this little lip on the side of them that makes it so easy to put your clay in there and get a perfect impression every time. And then I just flip it back out. If I have trouble getting my my clay out of there, I'll stick it in the freezer for about 15 minutes, just long enough for it to kind of harden up, and it literally will pop right out of there. I didn't want the middle part of this showing because I wanted to put down a rice paper and have this to frame it. So I just cut out that middle piece, and I'm going to use the rice paper that has angels on it. It's a Valentine's Day rice paper. I'm not really sure why, but I totally lost that piece of footage where I put that on there and then put the frames mold over the top of it. And on this one, I have some of that Tim Holtz paper. I got it from Hobby Lobby, and it's rice paper also, but it comes in a roll, and it's birds. And I'm actually really happy to be doing other types of DIYs that aren't like Christmas. Something different, because I've really been longing to do something different. And on these, it's super easy. Just like any other rice paper, you just put down a little bit of your liquid patina or your Mod Podge, whichever one you prefer to use. You just put down very little thin coat, and then you just put your rice paper down over it. And then just make sure that your sides are sealed really good, and you set it aside and let it dry. Here I'm putting the little bird pattern. On one side it says Birdie Paradise, and then on the other side it has birds on it. So I thought it would be pretty just to do that whole bottle in this, and I love the way this bottle came out. Here I have that blue sea glass looking bottle, and you see right in the center I painted it with that vintage linen. I painted it white just so that my rice paper would really pop. And I'm putting these two little birds right in the center, and they are a part of the rice paper from the Tim Holtz collection. I'm taking one of the molds that came out of the trimmings, which was the long pieces, and this one's shaped like flowers, and all I'm doing is putting my Type Bond on it, and it is one long piece, and I'm curling it around and manipulating it so that it will be a circle and it can frame out around these beautiful little birds. Then I'm just going to flip it around to the back, and I just kind of tear off small pieces, and I do not like straight edges, so I'm trying to tear it so there won't be any straight edges along the top there. And I just put down a little bit of my liquid patina and add it there. And where there's places that there is none of the rice paper covering, I just use bits and pieces and little scraps to make it go together. And in the end, you really can't tell where you've pieced stuff together. And that's another reason why I really like using rice paper. So now that I have most of the front and back covered, I'm just going to set it to the side and let it totally dry. Then we go back to the bottle that I started on, and this is the one that I lost the footage of me putting the little angel on the front and then putting that frames mold around it. And I'm just using some of that metallic rose gold, and it is a color by Folk Art. You can get that at Walmart, by the way, in that small little container. And I'm just going all the way around my little mold with that because I think that's such a pretty color. Then once that had dried, what I did was just added a little bit of water to some antique wax because I wanted to put some wax on it, but I didn't want it to be too dark or darken up the bottle too much. But I do want it to fall down into all those little cracks and crevices because this little frames mold here, it has little angels and cherubs all around it. You can't see them from up here, but they're on there, and they are so pretty. And I mean, this camera just can't do it justice. It's really a pretty mold. So all I do is I just kind of run my antique wax and water mixture around the bottle, and then I use a baby wipe to wipe off any of the excess, and it just kind of gives it an antique look, which I like that. I hope you guys had a good Christmas. I totally forgot to even mention that during the first of this video. I'm sorry about that. I just jumped right into the video, and I hope that we're going to have a blessed new year, and I pray that this year coming up is going to be great for everybody, and we're going to have a lot of health and happiness and love and success in this new year. And you guys know that I love every one of y'all. And I do pray for all of y'all as a group very often. You guys mean so much to me. And here I'm just picking up this other bottle that I had set aside so it could kind of dry. And I'm just doing that antique mixture on it also. We had a really good Christmas. I got to meet my little grandson. He was born on the 14th, but I didn't get to see him until a few days later because with the RSV going around and of course COVID and everything else, they just wanted to keep him away from everybody for a little bit. And I totally understand because I was the same way with my babies. Here I'm just taking some jute twine and I'm going around the top part of the bottle that's got the little angel on it. And I have a piece of lace that's probably about 10 inches long if I had to guess. And I just tie a little knot right in the center of that. And I'm going to glue it at the top of my bottle. And then I'm just going to take a little, cut the ends off first of all. And I'm going to dovetail them. Then I'm just going to take a little brooch that I got from Totally Dazzled. It took me a second to remember what it's called. Totally Dazzled. Sorry about that. And I stuck it right on the top. And then here I'm going over this bottle with the antique wax because I just like them all to have that old antique look, but not too much. That's why I do put a little bit of water in there, because if you just put straight antique wax, it just really like makes them brown, and I didn't want that. And then this last bottle, all I did on it was just very lightly kind of dry brush that vintage linen around it. And I liked the way that that looked. And the way that the bottle was shaped, I really couldn't do much as far as putting rice paper on it. I didn't want to take the chance to mess it up and make it crazy looking. So all I did was just dry brush the white on it. And then I went over it with that antique wax mixture, and that's totally it for that piece, except for I am going to wind some twine around the top of it. When I get all the way up to the top of the bottle, I just put a little dab of glue on the back, and then I'm going to just glue that off. And then I'm going to take a lighter and burn off all the little fuzzies that's on this and on the other one that I put the jute cord around. And during Christmas, if you guys were with me then, you remember that I like to use a lot of that glitter that I have. It's the extra fine diamond glitter. I just think it makes everything beautiful and sparkly, and I don't mind glitter. And especially don't mind it after using it so much this Christmas. So I just put a very, very little bit on this bottle. I put down a little bit of Mod Podge and just a little bit of that glitter. Just enough to give it a little bit of a shimmer. And I'm going to do it on this bottle also. I hope my customers at the store don't mind the glitter. And most of the time they don't. I hope you like this. Guys, we're here at the end of the video, and I just want to thank you for stopping in and spending your time with me. I was doing my videos every Tuesday and Friday at 6 o'clock, and now I'm going to try to do my videos. I'm still going to try to do 2, but I'm going to do Mondays and Thursdays, and let's just see how this works out. Just pay attention. In the next few videos, I'll let you know how it's going. It may not work, but we are going to try to do Monday and Thursday at 6. I'll see you back Monday at 6. I love you.
And not too long ago, a princess lived in a beautiful castle built upon a grassy green hill. People thought she had everything. They envied her talent, her fame and fortune, and they said her spirit could light up the darkest corners of any heart.
That's hilarious.
But every morning, when she looked down from her castle hill at the smoggy city of Hollywood, she knew deep in her heart that something was missing.
Roxy, leave my toes alone. No. 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 Oh, my toe. Oh, my toe. Oh, my toe. It hurts so bad. Look at this mess you've made on the floor. You've got lamb chop baby, Christmas baby, your hot chocolate and chill clothes, and your fire hydrant all pulled out. What do you have to say for yourself? Leave the toes alone. You got a mess of stuff pulled out. Go play with lamb chop, baby. Leave my toe alone. Leave it alone. Ow! I said no. I said no. I said no, you wild animal. Roxy! 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 Hey! You sound like a wind-up toy. Nobody's afraid of you. Roxy. Come on, girl. Let's do it. We're going to do it. Do it. Let's do it. Do it. Roxy. Oh, oh, Roxy. Oh, Roxy. Oh, 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 you are me. You're so cute. I'm okay. Come on. I'm okay. Look at that face. Oh, I love you so, you little rascal.